Welcome. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Issues and Insights. I'm Judge Kim Shumate from the Hardin District Court, and I have the pleasure to introduce to you some of our teen court students today to talk about our community program. Teen court is available to Hardin County students, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors from all of our local schools. Whether public school, private school, or homeschool, we welcome everyone to come to teen court. We like to say that Thursday is where teens take over the courthouse. First joining us today, we have John Woodring. He is currently the chairperson of our teen court student government body we call the League of Justice. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
Would you talk to the folks today about how you became interested in teen court?
Yeah, of course. I remember you came to my school actually and spoke during an assembly we had when I was in 6th grade. Initially, you were also speaking about mock trial, but I was very interested in teen court at the time, but I couldn't do it obviously because I was too young. But my brother did teen court and he told me about it as well, and you came to my school again, and then when I was of age in 8th grade, because of the shadowing process, I came and it's been great ever since.
So you were one of the few students that got to join us as an 8th grade student even before your freshman year because of your brother.
Yeah, and I love it so much.
And I'd like to say that John is the first student we've ever had as a freshman to be elected to the League of Justice because he was already participating his 8th grade year. That made him eligible. So thank you for that service. That's led you to your position today. You were treasurer and then vice chair and now chairman of our League of Justice. Did you ever think when you started that you'd get to chair that student government body from all the students all across the county?
No, honestly, I didn't think I was going to be on League of Justice at all. It was very intimidating to see those people. They look so put together.
Well, you are one of those put together teens now, so we're really glad to have you. So talk to the folks just a little bit about the League of Justice and how many students we have and what kind of things the League is doing.
Yeah, of course, League of Justice is a very special process. Anyone in teen court is in League of Justice, and we have special meetings throughout the year, usually about once a month, and where we meet and talk about different issues, but we also have fun at those. They can double as social events, so sometimes we play games or maybe watch a movie, stuff like that. And there's about 100 students that graduated this year. League of Justice, only a portion of those students show up because of different obligations they might have, so they might not be able to show up to every meeting, but we do have a good frequent number there.
So for you, between League of Justice, Executive Committee, and Teen Court, you're dedicating pretty much every Thursday of your senior year to Teen Court.
Yeah, I haven't had a free Thursday in years.
Well, I'm so glad that you spend that much time. Now, if you just volunteered with Teen Court, tell me what that school year might look like if you didn't take advantage of League of Justice and you just did the training and did case nights. What kind of commitment would that be for a student?
Yeah, so first you do training, which we have 6 weeks of training. Obviously, we don't do it during fall break, but it's almost every Thursday in a row. But then after that, we have our graduation, and then we do 2 cases a month. So not very time consuming. If you take a case, obviously you'll have to dedicate more time, but otherwise showing up for 2 Thursdays a month.
Good deal. So this is Katilyn Palmer, and Katilyn is currently serving as our treasurer. So tell me, tell us about your experience. How did you come to know about Teen Court?
When I started as a freshman in high school, I had heard little things here and there about Teen Court. And then as COVID hit, you didn't hear anything. And then this year it picked up very much so in our school, Teen Court. And then when I heard about it, I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. So then that's where I joined Teen Court, was through school.
And tell me where you go to school and what grade you're in now.
I go to Bede County High School and I am a junior.
And so you are our treasurer this year. So you've gotten to do a little bit of fundraising. Tonight we're having a fun fundraiser.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
Tonight we're going to be having pizza and soda over in the conference room. That doubles a lot as a fundraiser, but also as a really fun event for people to come and hang out and have pizza and drinks before court, so that it's not always business. We mix a little bit of pleasure in there.
So you came to us from Meade County.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have North Hardin Christian, where John is, and Meade County. and then of course the Hardin County schools, and then we also jump over to the Bethlehem High, and the schools over there, as well as Fort Knox. So we've just got students from all over.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you came in from Meade County, did you feel like you were going to know anyone at all?
Not really. No.
So did you feel like now we're creeping up on the end of the school year? Do you feel like you've made associations through teen court that are more than just I see you Thursday?
Yes, ma'am. Very much so.
Good. I enjoy that. One of my favorite things about teen court is getting to bring together students from all across that region to do things that they enjoy and help someone else. And so the cases that we're handling, Katilyn, the student defendants that are coming in, tell us a little bit about that scenario, because some people think this is mock trial, that it's just a learning exercise, it's just competition or pretend. Can you explain to the folks that are watching what we actually do in teen court when it comes to defendants?
Yes, ma'am. It is very much so real. When you are a defending attorney, you get a client who comes to you with a very real and serious issue, and you try your best to talk to the jury about how the person's home life is and what they're going through, and try to explain their actions, and not only their actions, but try to give the jury a suitable recommendation for where they should go from beyond there to get on the right track. Because nobody wants to go off the wrong track. Everybody wants to be on the right track to get where they want. And every single client that comes through these doors has a dream and a goal, and they just waver a little bit. So we try to help them get back so that they can achieve their goal.
So part of that defense attorney role then is to humanize the defendant and to convince a jury through jury oral arguments, just like on a TV show where you might see a courtroom experience. Yes. You get to argue to the jury in favor of your client. Yes. So these are actual juvenile cases where the defendants have already admitted that an action occurred that they shouldn't have done, something that would be against the law. If it were an adult, you call it a crime, or a juvenile, we call it a delinquent act. So they've made an admission and they're coming to teen court for sentencing by their peers. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And obviously you've done a defense role before. Have you ever been a prosecutor?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So we can't talk about individuals, of course, but we do get to share the types of cases that come through teen court, and even sometimes, if it's memorable, a specific type of consequence, because it explains the program a little. But we would never do anything that would relate back to an individual student or their responsibility as a defendant, because that'd be a breach of confidentiality, right? Right. And we train about that, keeping all those things inside. So, John, what would you say would be perhaps a memorable case or a fact scenario that comes to mind when you talk to people about what teen court is?
One would be possession of marijuana. It's a very frequent one that we get. And then the sentencing for that. It was very specific to what the person needed. It was taking into account their home situation, if their parents could take them places for community service, if they actually would write and do the workbooks, if that would be helpful to them, if it was something they enjoyed because they wanted to be a writer, and that was stuff that was actually helping them because they were writing more. So stuff like that, just making sure that the defendant knows that we care and we're listening and we're actually hearing what they need.
So we're tailoring the consequence, the sentence, to the defendant's actions, and then also to what he or she has said on the witness stand. Yeah, because the only witness is the defendant, right? If they've already admitted the conduct, we don't bring in a police officer or a sheriff deputy or an SRO. They just come in and say, this happened, and so here's who I am, what should the result be? And a teen jury gets to decide that. Have you served on a jury lately?
Yes, ma'am. I was actually jury foreperson last case.
Last time. So did you feel like the teen jury members were serious back in the deliberation room, like they really listened to the case and took their job as a juror seriously?
Yes, ma'am. Each person had a lot of statements and comments on, so one person would catch this, but then somebody else would catch this, like their home life, and then their friends. So everyone is always very inclusive and giving out the finishing statement for said client.
Good. So what do you think about the concept of letting our defendants, as a part of their consequence, come back and sit on a teen court jury? Because it happens. So the person who was charged and admitted and is being sentenced comes back in 2 weeks or 4 weeks as a jury member in teen court. What do you think about that?
I think it really helps the defendant understand that we are taking into account everything that happens in the courtroom and that we're not just throwing out a sentence. I really think it opens them up more to seeing what happens behind the scenes and making them feel more included into this program.
That's what I hope happens, and I'm glad to know it does, because when the teens go back to deliberate, there's no adult back there with you. I mean, this is your teen court. You argue the prosecution's case, you argue the defense case, you question and cross-examine the witnesses, and then there are teens that are the jury members. There's no adult back there. You all know what you're doing, you take it seriously, you listen to the facts, and match up an appropriate, suitable, tailored sentence for a defendant. I'm always proud of the work you all do. It never ceases to amaze me the level of understanding that teens have of other teens, and when you have a sentence that so matches that individual that an adult might not have thought of.
Right.
And so I really appreciate the work that you all do. And John, you're a senior this year.
Yes.
So this will be your fifth year swan song. Do you feel like you're mentoring and training up some new teens to take over leadership?
I feel like I'm doing it. Hopefully I'm doing it well. I'm actually mentoring on a case this evening, so hopefully I am imparting my wisdom of years onto them, but I really do hope, and I know that these teens, especially this new group that came in this year, they are wonderful people and they're going to do great work.
Yeah, I think so too. And it really warms my heart to see seniors and juniors mentoring our freshmen and sophomores so that they can come in and do more. So when you're first here, everybody trains the same. And then you have the chance to say, I'd like to be a prosecutor, I'd like to be a defense attorney, I'd like to be a clerk or a bailiff or a foreperson. So you can essentially sign up for those roles, but we don't leave you by yourself ever, do we? Yeah, we're going to make sure that you've got a co-counsel, so there's two prosecutors working together or two defense attorneys working together, and then potentially even a mentor just to make sure you're on the right track if you have questions. The other interesting thing about our teen court that's not the same across the state is our local bar association does such a wonderful job of mentoring and helping prepare individual cases. So John, can you talk about some of that where you go and meet the local prosecutor or meet a local bar defense attorney?
Yeah, of course. Usually whenever you're in a case for defense or prosecution, you'll meet with a local practicing attorney here and go to ask them questions. Hopefully you'll have already prepared something to bring to the table, but questioning is this a good question to ask? How would I ask this question the correct way? Asking about anything that you really need help with that you feel like they would be able to help you with. What's a good theme? Is this good for an opening? Is this too long? Stuff like that, that really you get an inside look because they've been in a courtroom and they know what courtroom is like and they know how procedures go.
Yeah, we do try to often have a prosecutor from the county attorney's office mentor the prosecutors from Jenny Oldham's office, and we try to have a local bar association attorney mentor those who are doing defense work in juvenile court as they're living, and then they get to come mentor the teen students as well, so that's really exciting. Have you had a chance to work with any of the local attorneys?
Yes, when I was on a prosecuting case, I had the great opportunity of working with one. He was very helpful.
I think that that's one of the special things about teen court is creating those relationships. We've had teen court students that would go on to work in the summer as a runner for a law firm where you run documents from the courthouse back to their offices or help in the office. And we've had teen court students that have gone on to be lawyers and teen court commissioners that are going on to be judges. So it's exciting to watch that whole level of mentoring go on from there. So John, do you think that you'll ultimately have a career in law at all, or has this just been a great high school experience?
It's been a great high school experience. I actually have no interest in law.
But 5 years of teen court.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot, and I know more about the law process now, more than the average citizen might, which is something I really think everyone should have more information on, but law just isn't for me.
So what do you think about the opportunity for writing and speaking that you get in teen court, especially if you take on the role of one of the attorney jobs?
Oh, well, if you're going to be an attorney, you're going to have to write and speak a lot. It's a really good opportunity if you're afraid to speak in front of people. I know I used to be a bit more shy about speaking in front of people, and now it's second nature. I'm very comfortable in front of other people. And writing, you're going to have to write your questions, your speeches, everything. And it really helps. It also helps with your writing ability because you have to find the way to say the right words in the right time.
I agree. I think that when we concept the theme, every case should have a theme. When you work with a co-counsel, you should work together as a team and find a theme so that whenever the jury goes back, they should say, the prosecution's theme was, And the defense attorney's theme was because it was so obvious from opening and closing and questions where you wanted to focus your attention. So persuasive argument and persuasive writing is how I think of the work that we do in teen court. Yeah. So what do you think? Do you believe that the work in teen court that you've done has been beneficial for writing or speaking?
Oh yes, definitely. Of course, writing those speeches and those questions have helped a lot. And getting up and having to speak in front of people, you become more comfortable in yourself and in front of people. So yes, definitely.
I think that public speaking is one of those things that you have to do it more in order to be comfortable. You can't just say, I'm not going to be afraid of this, or it's not going to make me nervous. You have to actually do it. And teen court, I think, gives you lots of opportunities to do it in small snippets. So it can be a courtroom full of people, but you're so focused on the 6 jury members that it's not like it's in front of a large crowd when you're just focused on those 6. So I think that's excellent. Well, I appreciate you all so much in the time you've given. You've done an excellent job, and thank you for joining us today on Issues and Insights. We're back with more students here from Teen Court on Issues and Insights. I have the privilege of having 2 more of our members from the League of Justice, which is the student body arm of our Teen Court program, to talk just a little bit about their personal experiences with Teen Court. So it's great to have with us tonight. We've got Michelle Zheng and Ayun Allen are both with us tonight. So Michelle, would you tell me just a little bit about where you go to school and how you became involved in Teen Court?
I go to school at East Elizabethtown High School. I got into Teen Court whenever they announced it on the intercom, and it was just something that I felt that I was interested in.
Great. I love the fact that we have a wonderful partnership with the schools when it comes to recruiting. They let our attorneys go in and talk to students, but technically we're not a school activity at all. We're not affiliated with school, we're affiliated with the court system. So we're part of the Kentucky Court of Justice. And when we do our confidentiality oath and get sworn in at the beginning, you remember how we say you're an arm of the Kentucky Court of Justice? So even though the schools are so gracious about letting us come in the fall and recruit. So, Ayun, how did you become involved in Teen Court?
At first I saw a post about it on Hardin County Schools, and I told my parents about it, and I was like, I want to go. And then a teacher came into my English class, and she announced it to us and gave us like papers about it.
About the open house? Mm-hmm. Did you get to come to this year's open house?
I did.
What did you think about that when we did the mock trial and had some students talk about Teen Court?
It definitely made me more interested in the program. It made me more like it showed what it was going to be like, and it showed it affirmed it to my parents that it was a good program, and that I wasn't doing anything bad, and it was just a reliable program.
We haven't really talked about what the training was yet. Tell me a little bit about what you would describe the training experience.
The training experience, it was definitely a really big learning experience. It was a lot of information, but you had the whole week to prepare again, and it was just it was really beneficial to learn about all the law and learning about opening statements. Even if you don't want to be a prosecutor or a defendant, you know what to do and how to be a bailiff, and you learn all the jobs that you need to do in the courthouse.
In the real world, we call it cross-training, right? Where you get to know somebody else's job to do your job better. So we learn everybody's job, and then you get to enlist what you'd personally like to be involved in as the year goes on. So we do 6 weeks of training in the fall, every Thursday night, but for fall break, boom, boom, boom. And so that's a lot of Thursdays invested. And during that time, we go into the schools the second week of school. We like to give the teachers a chance to get a deep breath. And we usually recruit the second week, and then you can join any time during that 6-week period. So did either of you have to do any of the online makeups, or did you get to go to every session in person?
I went to every session in person.
And did you get to do that as well? That's definitely the way to go. It is definitely the easiest way, and you get to be with people, and you get to gather together. And this is our first Thursday to be unmasked because of COVID mandates with our Supreme Court. So I was excited to get to see smiles and faces tonight instead of just eyes. But you do get to meet people in person, and it's much more interactive. But we do have the chance for students who are involved in other activities to be able to do online makeups. So for example, my son was really involved in soccer in the fall. And so he did lots of online makeups. And then he came to the cases he could in the spring because he played basketball. And if they had Thursday night games, then he wouldn't get to come to Teen Court on that night. So once you do on the training, you get to pick the Thursdays that match your schedule, right? Yeah. And you all have done a pretty good job of getting here just about every time, haven't you? Yeah, I was going to say pretty much is it every single time, I would say? Have you had to, yeah. it's good. Sometimes activities or illnesses keep us from doing what we want to do, but yeah, it's a good time to get to do those things. So what would you say is your favorite part about teen court? There's so many things we do and people we see. What would you say is, this is what I enjoy most about it myself?
I'd say meeting other people from different schools, because we don't really have that chance, and like creating these new relationships and meeting people who have like the same interests as you, the same passion with teen court, and then also doing the cases like as an attorney. I think that it's a very surreal experience. It's just I'm not sure how to put it, but it's just very real. It's very real, and it gives you like information about the real world.
Mm-hmm. I've had some people say that speaking is an adrenaline rush, and some people say it's the scariest thing they've ever done. Would you say one of the two or somewhere in between?
I think somewhere in between. Sometimes it's an adrenaline rush. Sometimes, like, if I can't find my words, it's kind of scary.
What would you say? What do you enjoy most about it?
I think I enjoy just sitting there and watching it all unfold and watching everything just happen, and like in like movies and things, you see how it happens, but those like really don't compare to the real thing.
Because you have an investment in it. You know the people. Yeah. You can see what's happening and what would happen next. So have either of you had the chance to serve on a jury?
I have.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about that, because we have no adults in the jury room. Mm-hmm. So I know what we train you to do, but I don't get to go back and watch. So how would you describe what goes on in a teen court jury when you're deciding what a sentence should be for that defendant?
I think it's definitely more civilized than you would think. You would think it's just a bunch of kids arguing, but it's really not. If there's evidence, we look at the evidence like really thoroughly. We pass it around. And I think it's just like a really good experience when everyone comes into a consensus of what we should do.
Because usually we have 9 students who may not know each other. They may all go to different schools. They may or may not have interacted before with teen court even. And so we have a jury foreperson that kind of makes sure that everyone speaks. That's what's supposed to happen. I assume that's what happens. Have either of you served as a jury foreperson before?
No.
Okay. So what would you say would be qualities in a good jury foreperson that you've seen exhibited?
Good communication skills, leadership skills to organize the group, and being considerate of everyone's decisions and being considerate of the defendant. I think those are the main 3 qualities.
And the juries that you've been on, do you feel like those forepersons either exemplified those or were working toward being better at those?
Yes, definitely. The first one I know, John was the jury for, and I think he's just a great role model in general, but like he's a really good jury foreperson. He makes sure that everyone's voice is heard. He's very thorough with the evidence, and he makes sure that we all come to like an agreement and a consensus, and nobody is like left out.
That's exactly what I would hope you would say. It sounds just like what we train you to do, right? That makes me happy when I hear those things. So we know in teen court there's confidentiality. So we know we can't talk about a student or do any kind of statements that would draw that particular event to a particular student. But we're allowed to talk in generalities, like what kinds of things come to teen court or what kinds of sentences we've seen. So can you think of a factual scenario or a criminal charge that you've seen when you've watched or been participating in teen court?
I've seen someone get sentenced to a visit in the detention center and community service.
So we actually 2 weeks ago arranged a tour of the Hardin County Jail because that individual defendant, a jury said, we want you to tour the jail setting. And so instead of just sending that person off, we had our whole teen court have the opportunity to go tour the jail together. So I thought that was really neat. I wasn't able personally to get there that night, but I got it all lined up. And so our jailer, Josh Lindblom, was so gracious to do that. Did you get to go on the tour? Did you enjoy that?
I really enjoyed it. I definitely learned a lot about what it's really like to be in jail.
Yeah. And so you all went through the women's section and talked with the substance abuse program with the women, and then you went through all the lobby and through some of those locking doors is what I heard about. Is all that true? Yeah. Some people, I don't know what your impression was going in and what the difference was. Tell me, what were you expecting versus what you found?
I don't know what I was expecting. I was kind of surprised. It definitely looked more like a friendly, like it wasn't like hard concrete walls and graffiti everywhere. It was like somewhere that you would like go to school or something. Like definitely like the substance abuse place. It was like a normal place where you can learn and like grow and be better.
Yeah. The substance abuse is not the general jail pods. It's that specialized area where women who have issues with addiction have made a conscious decision that they want to be able to work on themselves and use their time wisely in that setting and not just sit it out, but actually grow, make the next right choice and grow and learn about addiction and about themselves so that when they're released, they're in a better place than they were before, right? We didn't just house somebody, right? We try to make their life better. Did you get to hear about the GED programs and the continuing education and the workforce development, all those things that are going on in your jail? Isn't that neat?
Yeah, it really is. It's not just, oh, you stay here for a year. It's you can grow and be a better person when you come out, so hopefully you don't go back.
Exactly. That's the whole goal of everybody, right? Yeah. I would say it's very professional. It's still confining. I mean, you don't get to choose where you want to be or choose what you want to eat or choose when you shower. You lose a lot of choice, but I would definitely say that it is a place that you don't want to be, but by the same token, it doesn't fall under the cruel and unusual punishment thing. Yeah. Yes, especially that substance abuse women's program. Yeah. Usually the women there are very thankful that they sort of get a time out from life to work on themselves, from the craziness that might be life or just the whirlwind that might be addiction, to kind of get a deep breath and a time out and put things back in focus. Did you find that?
Mm-hmm. I definitely did, yeah.
Do you think you ever would have had another reason to get to see that part of life but for teen court?
Yeah, no, I would have never had the experience, yeah. And it definitely taught me more about what someone's really going through in jail.
Because some of the women spoke.
They did.
Yeah, you didn't it wasn't like a visit where you just walked by, you got to interact.
Yeah, it definitely gave you like a deeper meaning, like this was a real person and this is their story, and it was like really like touching to hear. It's like they're just be like completely open with us.
And when you've had those experiences and you can see people in the midst of those consequences, it's harder to say us and them. You have to say, that's a person from my community who is paying their consequences, but it's going to come back to my community. And you can see a person instead of an us or them. And to me, those are the kind of things I love for people to see. The younger, the better, because you get the chance to understand and grow from that later. You never know how that'll affect you later. Yeah. Did you get to go on the jail visit?
Yes.
Did you have that similar eye-opening kind of experience?
Yes.
So if you compared what you thought you were expecting versus what you saw, can you talk to me about that?
Okay, I agree with Aeon. I thought that jail was going to be, this not a pleasant place at all, like kind of run down, but it really wasn't like that. It was like a well-maintained facility to rehabilitate people, and we mainly saw the women in the substance abuse program, and their stories were really like touching and really heartfelt.
The women who are there have really made a conscious decision that I have to do something different in life, and I'm going to use this time to make a difference. I know we always say that we bring teens in because we want to be able to make a difference in the life of a teen. And when we do the jail tour every few years, not everybody gets to go, we don't do it every year. And when we have those opportunities, it just reminds us of where our teen court defendants, if they didn't change that trajectory, what could have been their future. But coming to teen court and being surrounded by so many amazing teens really gives them the chance to say, that's not my trajectory. I'm going to make the next right choice, and I'm going to get things on track and make sure I'm going in the right path. And so I think it's really good for our teens in teen court to get to see that jail setting and say, okay, this is really what we're working not to be in. This is what we're trying to get our student defendants to stay away from, and give them the next right choice and give them that next right path. So sometimes it's good to see stark reality and to say, this is what I want, but even sometimes to say, this is what I don't want. Yeah, yeah. So do y'all feel like the work that we do, whether it was the training with the task force and Clinton Turner that talked about drugs in our community, or whether it was a jail visit, or whether it was the cases you've seen or worked on, do you feel like you've gotten a different perspective for your community other than what you've just lived personally?
Yes, I
Do you
have
think?
personally, yeah. It's different than just, oh, this person got this punishment, and you really see how it, like, their reactions to it, and like how everyone feels about it, and it's just really interesting to see, and like it's really like it just like you just know, and like you know what to do, what happens, and it's just really like lifting to see that like a bunch of people come together to like this one person, and so that's like it's a definitely like yeah.
So we've sworn in 100 students this year, right at 99 or 100 students, right at that typical number on a non-COVID year. And tonight we might have 50 or 75, maybe 50 that get to be here on this Thursday night. So we have one student at 6:30 and one student at 7:30. So all those teens, all the parents that brought them here, the parents who train, our judges, our commissioners, our coordinators, are all here for 2 students to be on the right track. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Hopefully when the students leave tonight that are defendants, they'll feel like they've been heard, and they'll feel like their community is surrounding them with really good vibes, really good expectations, and hopefully it will be uplifting. Hopefully it'll move them on to the next level. Yeah, I love that. Anything else you would want folks to know, Michelle, about the program or about your experience?
I think you've covered most of it.
Anything else you would want folks to know? We've talked a good little bit. I'm so glad you could join us tonight. Our community needs to know more about teen court. And as much as I've talked about it for 23 years, I keep thinking that everybody surely has heard about it. But every year there's students who say, I didn't know about it till I got to learn at the school recruiting. So keep sharing the word, and we'll keep recruiting in schools those first 2 weeks of school in the fall, and we'll continue to bring new students in teen court. Good luck tonight. Thank you, ladies. Well, it has been such a great evening getting to put some faces to teen court for Issues and Insights. So thank you for joining me. This is Teresa Renee McMahon, now Miller. Sometimes I remember to say Miller and sometimes I don't, but I've known you since high school. So talking about teen court, tell me about how you first became associated with teen court.
So first becoming involved with teen court, of course, the attorneys go to the high schools and do presentations at the beginning of the school year. And I wanted to be involved. I thought the first year that I couldn't because I played softball. However, with teen court, they make accommodations to where even if you're involved in activities that are going to interfere with training or during some of the court nights, you can still have options of doing that. So I knew that I wanted to go into the legal field, so I made that happen, and I became involved in teen court at the end of my high school career and so forth as a teen going through training, in which we serve as attorneys and jurors and bailiffs and clerks during that time frame. So I became involved as a high school student and then continued on thereafter.
Now we still call it Hardin County Teen Court, but we recruit from a larger pool, and you are part of that larger pool. So tell folks where you went to high school.
I went to LaRue County High School.
And so you're still a LaRue County resident.
Yes.
You practice law here in E-Town.
Here in Hardin County, as well as LaRue, Hart, Nelson, and Breck, Grayson, and Meade, and have practiced in some other areas across the state as well.
You go all over to get the job done.
Yes.
Yes. Now, so you went to law school at?
Out of college, or out of high school, I went to Transylvania University, and then from Transylvania University, I went on to Ohio Northern University, and then I had the fortunate ability to be able to be a visiting student at the University of Louisville, Brandeis School of Law, my last year in 2008. So I moved back from Ohio in 2008 and spent my last year here in Kentucky. But my actual diploma, Juris Doctorate, is from Ohio Northern University, but I had the opportunity to have experience at both of those law schools.
And what I think is really cool is that when you came back home to practice, you jumped right back into volunteering at Teen Court here in Hardin County. I
Yes.
love that.
Yes. Whenever I moved back, I got the opportunity to come back in as an adult volunteer, and then I received my full licensure in 2009. And based upon having been involved and so forth, I received the opportunity to become a commissioner with the Teen Court program.
So here in just a minute, you're going to go preside on the bench as the judge commissioner for Teen Court tonight.
Yes.
And how do you like that experience as an attorney, getting to take that role of judging in Teen Court?
Well, it's just like when becoming involved as a teen, it gives you experience like none other that you aren't going to get from anywhere else. So it's an opportunity there, but you get to work directly with the teens and just seeing and encouraging them on how presentation of cases and so forth. And I think in working with the teens and mentoring the teens and presiding over cases, it gives you further insight of just casework itself and so forth of how to operate in with those cases. But you're giving back to your teens and the community in that way, but it's also aiding you in being a better at what you do as well.
Yeah. Now, at different times, we've had LaRue County cases, or we've assisted Judge Reed for a while in LaRue County Teen Court, and he is retiring.
Yes.
And there are a few people running for that job. I hear you just might be one of those people.
Yes.
If you had the privilege to serve on the bench in those counties, do you think that you might be able to revive Teen Court? Would that be something you'd be interested in doing there?
So I have told some of the community there, yes, that is one of my goals. Obviously, LaRue County students still have an opportunity to come over to Hardin County, but Hart County students don't. They're a little bit further away in that travel and that distance. So I would like to make that opportunity for both LaRue County and Hart County students. And I think Hart County can pull from those surrounding areas, such as Berrien County, which is right next door, and so forth, in order to build that program up. And so,
That would be so exciting. You know that we would support any of that.
yes.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate your taking time out of your schedule tonight to visit with us. And I know you are on your way to Judge Teen Court. So thank you so much. It was good to see you. Well, ladies, it is such a good opportunity to gather together and talk about one of our favorite topics, Teen Court, the one that brings the three of us together. So our viewers from Issues and Insights know that we are here in the Hardin County Courthouse to talk about Teen Court, and it is my pleasure to introduce two of the ladies that are our co-coordinators that make this program hum. It's all about the volunteer spirit that you all have. I have the chance just to work from the sidelines and watch it all happen. So Miss Susie Douglas is with us today, and Miss Susie's been with me since Jonathan started Teen Court back in 2000. Today, this is 22 years. That's amazing. That is an awesome spirit of volunteerism. And then Miss Terry Owens is with us tonight. Now, Miss Terry is a Radcliffe City Councilman, but you're here as our Teen Court manager as well. Yes. So we kind of divide up our work, and Miss Susie works with our high school volunteers, students, in assigning them the roles for their cases. And then Miss Terry works with the student defendants to make sure that they get all the support they need to carry out their sentences. So I really appreciate the work that you all do together and making sure that it all happens. So Miss Susie, talk to me a little bit about the work that you do with students and our volunteers. What kind of things do you do to make sure that we get assignments and get prep together?
Well, first it starts with the CDW, getting the cases, and as soon as I get the cases, I've already got students who have signed up saying they want to be defense or prosecuting attorneys. Some just want to be bailiffs, some want to be clerks. So I get the assignments ready, and then when I get the cases, I meet the students, give them their cases. I've set up with local attorneys to meet with the different teams. So we have usually just one attorney over at the prosecuting office that meets with the students. And then I have various local defense attorneys who meet with my teams to prepare them, help them to prepare for their cases.
Our students don't realize how fortunate we are to have a bar association that works so well with us, because across the state, not every teen court has those local attorneys to do that mentoring. So your work to line those up together and keep those mentorship going is really important.
We also have to make sure that the defendant and the parent or guardian also knows about the meeting and goes to the meeting too and can meet their teen attorneys.
So they'll have a prep meeting at an attorney's office, and then they'll have their night of court here at the courthouse.
Yes.
So after those students that you've assigned do all their preparation and come to court to hold their trial, then at the very end of the trial we say, would you please, the bailiff will escort you to see Ms. Terry Owens so that you can carry out the sentence. Tell me about what your work is with those defendants and families.
Kind of like a handoff, you know, a secure handoff from when the actual court proceeding happens, and Ms. Susie has coordinated all the moving pieces that make that court case work, including you. And then at the very end, the person, the offender now has a responsibility along with their parents to carry out whatever the sentencing is or the sanction that's given to him or her. So it could be community service hours, they may have to serve as a juror, they may have to work on a workbook that's associated to a behavior, whether we're talking about conflict resolution, anger management, theft, something of that nature. There's a workbook to kind of help them modify and understand that behavior. They may do an apology letter, pay restitution, do a letter to themselves of what they think they're going to be or what they've learned from what they've gone through in teen court, and now they're 30 years old. What would they tell their 30-year-old self? So I turn those sanctions into what we call a diversion contract. And it is a legally binding contract, so to speak, that says these are the things that you've been charged to complete. A, B, C, and D. I give them normally a month to do it. That may include drug screening. And so that contract is signed by the parent. And then I follow up every week until they get everything done. And I said, have we gotten the workbook done? I just sent it to them, you know, an email, or someone has done a poster, which I actually have today, or they want to turn in everything in the workbook or the letter. And so they're given options. For community service, you're giving me a lot of latitude. Ma'am, I get to tailor their community service, so it feels more realistic. They get more out of it other than just going to some of our standard places. So
in other words, if somebody likes animals, they might end up at the Animal Refuge Center or the Hardin County, Hardin County Animal Control, where they're taking care of animals. So we're not just saying go forth and do good, we're walking alongside.
Exactly, and a good example of that, we have one that plays football for one of the area schools. So as part of his penance, if you will, he spends time with the trainer. The other offender, cosmetology, hair, you know, the young folks, they're into that. So she has been saddled, or not saddled, but put together with one of the local beauty salons. And then the last one is with the Pure group. She went to a meeting last week as part of that educational workshop, because I know that Big Brothers Big Sisters of America is kind of on the outs, in the sense of they don't have enough staff to run that kind of a workshop right now. So that was the alternative, with the hopes for me that she'll stay with the program. She may like it, I don't know. So I get to tailor it to their needs, and hopefully, you know, they'll learn a lot about it without feeling like they're being hit over the head with it and they're stuck. I can sort of make it work for their interest. So if they like being a mechanic, they may be at Swopes, who knows? But I try to make sure that it is worthwhile for them.
Yes, that's really important to me, because we don't want a student defendant to leave this program and feel like, oh, I got some busy work to do. I really want them to believe that they've had to think about their previous actions, acknowledge their consequences, and make the next right choice, and feel like those consequences really related to them as well as their offense. If there's no cookie cutter justice in teen court.
No, it is not. And then at the end, where she works for the CDW, on my way out, or on their way out, I am keeping in contact with our court designated workers to say, this is where we are in this case, or this one is completely done. They're good. Their contract is fulfilled. And so it's an infinity kind of a circle. It's never a one and done or a cookie cutter. It takes a lot of small pieces, but those small pieces make a unified set. So we're hoping that that student doesn't resit and comes back and see you in a different manner.
Yes. A few years ago, we had the chance, ours and Northern Kentucky were a part of a recidivism study, and they followed those cases out for a couple of years, because you're usually in that age group from 13 to 17, so you don't want to follow too far. And the level of recidivism, getting into trouble again, was so small for individuals who'd come to teen court, and they just really believed on an individual basis that they had connected with their community and they had consequences that reflected that, and they were not coming back as a defendant in a court system. I always say one of my greatest compliments is when I have someone who one year was a defendant that comes back the next year as a teen court volunteer. To me, that's the greatest compliment you can pay this program, is saying, it made a difference to me and I want to be a part of making a difference to someone else. I love it when that happens. Yep. So I appreciate so much you all volunteering who you are and dedicating that time to teen court. It's been really important. Now, Miss Susie, when you started as a parent volunteer. And so we had parents that would just come kind of sit by and watch students. And we have in Hardin County a group of parent volunteers that are boosters. And we have parents who just drive their kids and make sure they're dressed well. And then we have an extra layer of parents who are boosters who make sure we have social events. And I'm allowed to ask anybody who wants to come to teen court gets to come, but only because I have parent boosters who are here, because I can't play traffic cop and dress code police myself. I can't do all those things. So we have to have adults. And when Miss Susie came to me early in teen court and she said, I would really like to gather together some adults that could be supportive to the program. Would you like to do something like a booster club? And I'm like, who ever heard of that? It was the first in the state, because Miss Susie said, I want to enrich this program by giving those opportunities. I'm like, I'm all about courtroom. I will train them in the courtroom, I will do cases in the courtroom, and I'll go back to my family. And Miss Susie's like, yeah, but we really think that there are adults that could make a difference. And I've appreciated that. It's a wonderful booster program. And so you still work with the boosters, and you still, even the Thursdays when I'm not here, you're with League of Justice or their executive committee. You give me pretty much every Thursday for the last 23 years, but for summers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
So-
it's worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah.
It is.
So tell me about the parent boosters and how that kind of comes together these days. What does it look like now?
Well, we got sort of slowed down because of the COVID, but normally the parents come and they really are a big part of assisting me
They are.
with just reaching out to the students, or making sure people are where they're supposed to be. Some of the dads will make sure that they get in the courtroom at the time they're supposed to.
Right.
It's just like whatever they need to do, they do.
They do.
And we used to try and put on socials and special events here on Thursday nights, and so it may get back to that, I'm hoping, where we would do something special for the kids during their break between the two sessions. So we just wanted to make teen court a lot more fun for the students, so that not just carrying out the trials,
Right.
but they had something to look forward to.
I always say, that's me. I'm the carrier of the trials. Somebody else is the fun. But thankfully, we have a wonderful, well-rounded group that lets both things happen.
Yeah,
So
we
that's
do.
what we're hoping to get back to doing.
Yes. So we've had a social, well, tonight we had a fun fundraiser, bringing in pizza. And we talked with some of the students about the tour we did with the jail to carry out one of the defendant's sentences. And we've I think next Thursday, they're just doing a social event. They're going to do movie and popcorn, and we're using one of the community rooms. Sometimes we go to the police department community room or the fire department community room. So those things happen because parent boosters are willing to give those Thursday nights to make sure there's good supervision. So thank you all for doing that. I really appreciate it. It's heartening to know that our community is willing to support these programs. I mean, you've never had a child in teen court.
No, and I said, but they're all my children. I
Yes,
started
they are now.
5 years ago as just an adult volunteer.
Yes. Just came from the community and said, I want to help. And Miss Susie started with the first of her kids that went through. We had definitely, how many went through?
Kelly and Julia, and then Skylar.
Kelly and Julie and Scott, and then Jonathan started.
Yeah, Jonathan started.
Yeah, so all those, you were a parent through all those students that were a part of our program. So, but that's been a while. So you've still been here long beyond their adulthood. You keep on coming back. So you ladies, just keep on coming back, because these kids are worth it. Absolutely. Well, we took this time out of the middle of a teen court night, so I'm going to let you all get back to the volunteering tasks, because there's students all over this courthouse. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I have 2 more students who have joined me for Teen Court, so thanks for being a part of our show and learning from our teens and from our adults. And Kaylie Crick and Jordan Stieve are here today, and they're going to talk a little bit about Teen Court. We've spoken with some other students about the training process, but you ladies are getting ready to do a case here in a few minutes, yes? Are you all co-counsel or opposing? Co-counsel. All right. You said that together like you'd practiced that. I love it. All right, so Jordan, tell me a little bit about where you go to school and how you became involved in Teen Court, and then we'll talk about not the particulars of tonight's case, but preparation.
So, my name is Stieve. I go to Central Hardin currently. I'm a sophomore there, but I learned about the program when I was an 8th grader at East Hardin. One of my friends, she was a freshman at the time, she was doing it, and I wanted to be a part of it because, like, in 8th grade is about the time that I realized I wanted to go into something with law. But I didn't have a sibling who was in high school, so I messaged the Instagram and asked, and they were like, I can, but I have to have a sibling in high school. So since 8th grade, I decided I wanted to do it. And I was excited to do it freshman year, but because of COVID, I realized that doing it online probably would not have been my thing. But whenever I realized you guys were doing it this year, I was like, I have to be here.
You jumped on that one.
Yeah, so I've been coming every week, essentially, since the homecoming. Not the homecoming,
The open house and
open
training,
house,
yes, from day one.
Yep, from
Jumped
day
in.
one.
We did keep going during COVID, but you are right. Doing it all online was a chore, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We actually did some trials. The defendants were at their home, prosecutor was at their own home, defense attorney at their own home. I was here in the courthouse, but nobody else was. And we did it on back then we were using Skype.
Yeah.
And then when it was time for the jury would go to a completely different Skype meeting with only the teens, and then they would come back in and give their decision in our large group Skype meeting. It was a technological nightmare because I am not tech savvy and I had to play tech master.
Yeah, I'm not very
But
savvy either.
but we definitely kept it going. You know, there were only 2 high schools, or 2 teen court programs, I should say, that kept it going through COVID, us and Northern Kentucky. But you're right, in person is so much better. You get to enjoy each other's company and you get to learn from one another and be in the same spot. And there's something about being in a courthouse. It's just kind of neat.
I feel like it's easier to talk with your clients as well, like whenever you're in person, because you can kind of get to know them more, and I feel like they're more comfortable talking to you in person versus like on the phone call, because I've done both in person and on phone call, and in person I feel like they definitely open up more, you get more, versus doing Zooms or just calling.
Definitely. So Kaylie, how long have you been doing teen court?
This is my 3rd year in teen court. I found out through for teen court from my friend Patricia. She did it the first year. And then so I decided to come with her, and I've been in it ever since I was a sophomore.
I love it. Now tell everybody where you go to school.
I go to Central Hardin, and I'm a senior.
And you're a senior. I'm going to lose you next year. Oh my gosh. It goes by so fast. It really does. So, ladies, tonight you are co-counsel as prosecution or defense? Defense. Have you done prosecution before?
Done both.
Both? Have you done prosecution before? Yes. So you've seen both sides of it? Both sides. So what would you say is your favorite, prosecution or defense?
I like defense better because you're more prepared and you get to actually talk with the client.
As compared to prosecution, you get paperwork to look at. Defense, you get to meet your client and just really humanize and hear the whole story first. Yes. Which one do you like better, prosecution or defense? Defense? Everybody has one they just really feel like they click with. Yeah. All right, now the folks at home know that we do real cases, and they know that you meet with a local practicing attorney, they know you meet with the defendant, but they really don't know exactly how you get assigned a case and work through that kind of process. So how did you first get assigned this defense case? We're not going to talk about your defendant specifically, but this case, how did you get assigned?
We just talked with Miss Susie and tell her if you're interested or not, and if she needs somebody, she'll reach out to you.
So you got your assignment from Miss Susie, and what do you get when you get an assignment?
You get a book with the case files and any grades or behavioral reports.
So you learn a lot about the person before you even meet them.
Yeah.
And then what happens next after you read all that material?
You contact your defendant and the parents, and you set up a call with them, and then later on in the week you'll do like the call with the attorney and your defendant.
So you either might meet in person or on a Zoom call with a local practicing attorney, your defendant, student, teen client, and their parent. Yes. So I mean, you're responsible for that. There's nobody there telling you what to do and how to do it. That's your job to represent, as an attorney, represent your client. That's a lot of responsibility. Have you ever had that kind of responsibility in any other task or club or anything you've done before?
Not really.
To me, it's unique. Yeah. Yeah. So after you meet with the local practicing defense attorney, your client, and you've gotten a chance to tell me what goes on in that type of meeting.
So you kind of get to know your client more and you get to hear their story. That's like my favorite thing about defense, because you get to understand it and you get to understand what made them do what they did and like understand the details versus just reading the paper, because paper can make you think of people like a certain way versus when you get to know them and you get to talk to them, so you get to actually hear their story, which is a reference I like to use, because one of the first attorneys I worked with, he explained how it's we, the defense, are telling the defendant's story, and so.
And that stuck with you?
That stuck with me, yeah.
Yeah.
So you get to talk to them, and then you get to make your own argument, your closing, and your questions on how you want them to be heard, and then your opening, so then the jury will understand why they did what they did, and they can really be heard. So, and you work with them a couple times. Like this most recent one, we talked with them quite a bit, and we talked with them with our attorney for quite a bit. It was actually a 2.5 hour attorney call.
Okay. So you really worked hard with that.
Yeah.
You feel like you know that person.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do that, I believe that the student defendants feel like you're investing in them.
Mm-hmm.
You create a connection, a true attorney-client relationship. And they know it's confidential, right? Yeah, you all are very cautious in teen court about maintaining their confidentiality. Yeah. So if you saw that defendant out at Wendy's, at the mall, or in the hallways of school, if they happen to go to your school, how would you react, and how would that confidentiality affect your relationship there? Do you just ignore them, or what do you do?
I say that you could wave. I don't think anybody would like give them a smile, wave at them. Nobody's really going to question that too much. I'm not going to go up to them and be like, hey, do you remember this when you were charged with this and I was your defense? But I think like a wave, a hello, maybe how's your day, would keep a good relationship.
I think that's important too. I think that's a good way to put it, keeping that relationship. I think when individuals know that someone else is watching them do good, then it makes them want to do more well, right? If someone says, you know, good to see you, you look great today, how's your day going? You're like, oh, someone notices me. I think that's an important part of the follow-up after. So what about preparing your defendant for the night of court? What kind of things do you do to say, okay, you're gonna walk in the courthouse, what do you do to get them ready for their, I pulled up in the parking lot, now what do I do?
So we basically just talk to them and go over the questions and how the night will go and the dress code and everything like that. Like for this case, we made sure what questions we were going to ask to prepare him, and then tonight we actually went over the whole case, like how it would go, like opening, questioning, and all that, and then just make sure they're comfortable and not nervous.
Yeah, and they come to court. Teen court usually starts with admin from 6 to 6:30, case 1 from 6:30 to 7:30, case 2 from 7:30 to 8:30, and then we usually head out 8:30 or so, depending on how busy we are, right? So how early does your student defendant come to the courthouse usually?
So tonight, our defendant showed up at 5:30. They normally show up anywhere from like 5:30 to 6 o'clock, to like 5:30 to like 6:30 in that hour, depending on what case you're doing. We're the second case, so they came a lot early, but that was all right. It gave us tons of time for preparation, and we'll still have some after.
Yeah.
And then it gives them time to understand and go over everything.
A deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a break, because coming in here is definitely nerve-wracking. A lot of the students and people who are coming in here haven't been here before. This is their first time, so kind of get a little comfortable, or as comfortable as you can be in your surroundings.
Yeah. And that's important for your defendant, right? So they'll be comfortable in their surroundings so that they can testify and not feel too nervous about it, so they can really tell their story. For a defendant not to just express their side of the story in the sense of whatever factual scenario got them there, but the whole after that, how have they grown and what have they learned, and express that to a jury. That's an important part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important for the jury to know that the defendant has thought about their actions and thought about how things could have gone better. And I think it's really important for defendants to be able to say that out loud to someone, that, you know, this happened and it may not have been my most shining moment, but I've learned from this and I want to do better, and here's how I'm going to do differently the next time it happens. And I think good defense attorneys will bring out those very questions. And when defendants leave, I hope that a year or 2 or 5 years from now, when they think back about their teen court night, I really hope they feel like that they had the chance to express themselves, that they had a chance to be heard, and that they had the chance to have someone stand by them, like a defense attorney, to make sure that they could get that done in the night when it really happened, when it really needed to be done. So you all are getting ready to have a trial in a few minutes. So thank you so much for sharing about your preparation, about your experience. Perhaps there'll be another teen that's listening that'll say next fall when they train, I'm coming to Hardin County Teen Court.
It's an awesome program. I will suggest it to anyone who's interested in anything like this, and even if you aren't, come give it a try.
Thank you. You agree?
Yes.
I agree too. Thank you for joining us. Issues and Insights. There's always something interesting, and tonight we're so glad that we were able to share with you Hardin County Teen Court, where teens take over the courthouse.